Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Just My Thoughts. Um, hmm. So earlier, I tried to earlier this week, I recorded this video. For some reason, I don't know, something going on with YouTube. I don't know, but for some reason, I recorded the video as normal, and it had no volume on it. No sound, I'm sorry. It had no sound on it. My wife says this makes me an official YouTuber now, because every YouTuber, stated they've had issues like this at some point. It's the weirdest thing, really. A little disappointing because I thought it was a really good video, but I'm going to give it a shot again. So, this video is about being a number 3, specializing, and basically what I'm seeing, how it plays out, and all that. Just some random thoughts and processing. So, as I believe I stated last video, in the social hierarchy, I would believe myself to be a number 3. Number 3s are the specialists. They tend to focus on becoming a master of one thing. I've heard one guy say, Benjamin, he says he thinks all these 4 types are just sort of different mating strategies. Excuse me. Evolved throughout history. Evolved throughout history. It's just basically evolution, I guess. So the number 1 strategy, the strategy of the number 1s is flexing. You basically try to become the man or present yourself as the man in like every situation, every arena. I don't know how you 100% find it. Just in every area of their life, they're trying to and always presenting themselves as the man, right? And I kind of wonder, like, when people be like, "Oh, it's the alpha males," maybe that's what they're referring to. I don't know. I always thought the alpha male thing was a little. It never made sense to me realistically. You can't just be like, "Oh, well, you're the alpha male and everybody else is beta," and it's just like, yeah, no, that's not. It's not how humans work. It wouldn't really make much sense to me, because you would all just gang up and kill the alpha male. Like, you see this in chimps. If you get a really sadistic, dominant chimp, he'll rule for a time, but 2 of his subordinates, at the first sign, moment of weakness, they'll gang up and kill him. So yeah, I don't know, that mating strategy. I mean, I guess if you're just you're just looking to pass on your genes, you'll get that opportunity, but you'll die not too long after. But the number 2s, they're the more entrepreneurial type. They specialize in sort of responsibility, I think is how they name it. But they're like taking care of everything, as opposed to number 3s. Number 3, they're specializing. I'm gonna do this one thing. I'm gonna do it really well. Number 2s sort of do a little bit of everything. Sort of like a master of none, like a jack of all trades, master have done. So they're very good. They multitask. They get the job done. Whatever is required, whether it be in their position or not. Northern entrepreneurs tend to see that a lot, especially now, in this day and age, in the age of technology. The number 3 is specialists. I'm going to focus on doing this one particular area. I'm going to do it really well. And that's my way of being good enough at what I do to give me mating opportunities. In the context of this is the mating strategy, that's how it will work out. I don't know if that's true. I mean, it sounds correct, but I really couldn't speak for all that, like I'm hesitant to speak and say, oh yeah, that's 100% correct. But I will say, excuse me, getting over a cold. I will say, that is something that occurred to me when I was younger, probably like in my early 20s. I remember thinking like, okay, well, once I master my craft and get good at my field, I'll have selection of mates. And this was like back when I wanted to be a comic book artist. And I know you're like a comic book artist. I assure you, in any field, there are perks of being really good. I have been to conventions. I have seen, I guess you can call them groupies. I don't know what else fangirls. I don't know. Very attractive looking women looking to sleep with the artist. It's a very strange thing when you first see it. Like, it's like conceptually it makes sense, but when you see it, it's like, really? But yes, I have seen it. But just that whole become really good at something, and then you can sort of make your own ticket, I guess you can say. That always made sense to me. That was something I thought about when I was younger. So yes, I can definitely see that. And then you have the number 4s. Number 4s are friends. They're all about friends. They're all about sort of tending to the needs of other people, being there for their friends. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really. I mean, I guess their social strategy is just being good with everybody, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, you certainly can be good at being good with everybody. Be likable. I mean, that helps. It's just, for me, in the way I think, that doesn't work for me personally. I mean, that's just my thought process. But you do need people like that. Like, people like that, you sort of help society as a whole, so I certainly wouldn't say it's a bad thing. It's just weird that that's a mating strategy per se. But I don't know. I mean, being friends with everybody, you could have access to greater resources because you're friends with everybody. People like to help out their friends. I mean, hell, I always thought, and again, I guess this is the number 3 in me. I always thought you get good at what you do and then like you're the best, and that's why you get hired in your field. That's why you get promoting opportunities. And it turns out no. And humans, that's not, it's not true. People promote you. People will keep you around when they gotta choose people to fire. People will hire you because they like you. So being the number 4 does make a lot of sense. It's just to the way my mind works, it doesn't. But it does overall. Objectively, it does. So, yeah, that's very interesting. So, and trying to process the whole social hierarchy thing and being a number 3 this week, I've been giving this some thought, and yeah, I think you are whatever your type is, whether you be an INTJ, ENTP, whatever, right? You are that type, but your social type does sort of. All right, so let's say you're a INTJ or ENTP, right? Those functions in that order will dictate how you intake and process information, right? That's still 100% true. Makes a lot. Makes a lot of sense. Certainly, there, no problem. Sensor, intuitive, thinker, feeler, whatever, right? Animal order, whatever. But, and looking at the social hierarchy thing, what I think is that social hierarchy does use whatever your type is to execute that mating strategy. So, like, me being like an ESFP and being like SETE, but I'm a number 3, I can see, looking back, I can see how being a number 3 is using those functions to its advantage to try to accomplish its goal. Right? So, like I said, I had that thought in my early 20s, like it was going to be useful if I become a master or whatever I do, become the best, that it'll be useful for many opportunities, right? But thinking back even further, when I was a kid, I remember I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a comic book artist. I knew that comic books were like a source of art that I saw on a regular basis. That and like animation. And once I found out how animation worked, even so I thought it was cool, I did not want to repetitively draw like everything frame for frame over and over and over and over. So I went with comic books. But I was like, I want to dabble in painting. I remember this when I was young. I was in like elementary school. I took some art classes at the Cleveland Institute of Art. Cleveland Museum of Art. Yeah, Cleveland Museum of Art. I got like I sort of got like this scholarship or pass or something from like elementary school to go there for the summer and study. So I did that, and I learned more about painting. I had also been somewhat aware of painting just from like movies and stuff. So I remember in elementary school, like probably 5th, 6th grade, I was like, I'm going to learn more one day about painting. I'm going to learn how to paint, right? And I remember the reason I wanted to learn how to paint was because these painters get to paint nude women. And I want to learn how to paint so one day I can get a nude woman to pose for me so I can paint her. In elementary school, I was thinking this, right? Not that I was thinking about having sex, but that was in my mind. So, like, as far as being a mating strategy, I could definitely see that. I do think that social type, at least, all right, speaking for myself, I can see it under the surface working at all times. It's always there. It's always there. And then, like, kind of working this out. Like, recently I was talking to someone, and we were talking about this, and the guy, he's a very close, almost the exact type as me. And, but our social types are different. So he's the number one. And I'm talking to him, and he's explaining to me what the number ones are doing. And as he's explaining, I realized I have seen this behavior before. Because he's like, number ones are always sort of flexing, trying to prove, they're the man. And they're trying to present this image, right? If you want to say image, if you want to say facade, however you want to define it, right? They're trying to give you this image of, I'm the man, I'm top dog, I'm the best, whatever. And as he's telling me this, I realize, right, there are certain things that I've always seen that I just didn't understand. Like, you ever see somebody do something and you're like, why does this person keep doing that? Right? It just baffles me. Like, I couldn't figure it out. I was like, why does this person keep doing that? Like, repeatedly. And it was the same thing. Like, they keep trying to show, like, trying to make a visual show, or even just talking. They're very braggadocious, trying to present this image of, I'm the man. I have seen this shit, right? And it never made sense to me, because I was like, well, one, I fucking know you. You're not the man. You're not even close, right? And I was like, why does this person keep fucking doing this? And I've seen this in multiple people. And the people that I've seen it in, it's consistent. It's not a one-time thing. And when he said the number one, he was explaining that, it clicked into place. I was like, oh, okay, I have seen that. I have definitely seen that many times. And I've seen them do it differently. Like, each person is different, so they don't do it 100% the same, but you can see they're all doing the same shit. They're just doing it differently. And I found that fascinating. Once he explained it, I was like, holy shit. Right? I can name 3 number ones that I work with right now. Right? So, number 1A, I would consider this guy a friend. I like him. He's super, super, super cool guy. Right? Super cool guy. He's always helpful. He's always trying to share knowledge and stuff like that. Super cool guy. And I would say he is a number one. Right? I mean, clearly he's number one, but he is closer to I am the man, right? No, he's not a billionaire or anything like that, but he's doing very well financially. He does very well in terms of exploiting those mating opportunities. He across the board, he's doing really good, right? So where he's braggadocious, it doesn't come off as irritating. Actually, it doesn't come off irritating at all because he can back that shit up. So you just think, guy's just speaking about his life, right? Now I've seen that annoy other people, but it never bothered me. I'm like, all right, yeah, no, that makes sense to me. Because yeah, he can back it up, and it also never felt over the top. Like, it felt like slightly braggadocious, but it never felt over the top. Where looking at person B, always over the top. Always over the top. Doesn't have anything to show for it, but constantly trying to present this image to the point it's laughable. Everybody clearly sees you are not what you are trying to present yourself to be. So, person B, yeah. Again, that person, I would assume, is a number one as far as the mating strategy, but has nothing to back it up. God, it makes me sad. It scares me in terms, I don't want to be that in terms of number 3. I don't want to be that. So that's something I'll have to think on, consider. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. The third number one, person C, is braggadocious. They are a supervisor. They are number one in their supervising position, right? In terms of getting the job done, they are the best supervisor. In terms of working under that person, they're the worst supervisor. They kind of see people as tools, and they don't really care about the person. They just like, you're a tool to get the job done, and they don't really care about you personally, and they don't mind mistreating or manipulating you if they feel like it'll make you do what they want you to do better. And this is where this is interesting to me, right? Because, and maybe it's just my values. I always thought like, if I have to cheat to win, did I really win type of guy, right? To me, I didn't really win. I cheated. So therefore, how can I accept any accolades if I cheated to win and I didn't truly win, right? And if you look at sports, there are a lot of number ones in sports. And you can see some number ones are like, I'm going to do it and I'm going to prove I'm the best. And then some number ones are like, I'm going to do it, I'm going to prove I'm the best. But if that don't work, I'm willing to do it by other circumstances, right? So you can see that in sports. So if you look at Tom Brady, who I like Tom Brady, what a little bit I know about him, because I'm not a sports guy, but if you look at Tom Brady is considered to be the best quarterback of all time. Debatable. I'm not a sports guy, so I can't debate it too much. But I know he's very accomplished in terms of Super Bowl wins and things like that. And there's no debate whether he's the best or not. Tom Brady is one of the greatest, easily top 5, right? If you guys know anything about sports, and I don't really follow, but I work with a lot of people that know about sports, so I can't help but hear this shit. There was a few years back, there was the Super Bowl. I don't remember if they won or lost, but they were caught with sort of like deflating the ball, and the basically came down was he said he didn't do it, and they were like, all right, we can't prove you did it, but we know there's no way that you couldn't have known it was done because you're throwing the ball, right? And that's one of those things of like, I gotta win at all costs, and if I win at all costs to be number one, to me that's not truly being number one. Now that's now you're falling into values. You're falling into what your values are and how important those things are to you, and that's why to me that's an issue. But to a lot of people, it's not an issue. You heard that saying, winning isn't. What is it? Winning isn't the fuck. There's a saying. I've heard it. I always laughed about it. I thought it was comical. Oh, winning isn't everything. It's the only thing, right? It's like saying, oh man, you lost. Winning isn't everything, and then somebody's like, no, winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. It's the only thing important, whether you win or you lose, right? Now, and to a certain degree, that's true. But to me, on a grander scale of morals and taking credit for a win, how you win is important. If you cheated to win, then you didn't really win, in my eyes, right? Now, again, that's debatable. That's a thing of values. So depends on the person how they look at it. But to me, that's how I interpret it. Right? So this person C, they fall in that category, right? They're a really good supervisor, but they have no issues playing dirty to be recognized as such. They have no issues sort of fudging numbers, trying to sabotage other supervisors, things like that. And they're very insecure, actually. So, like I said, those are 3 different number ones that I know personally. And yeah, they're all 3 number ones, I'm pretty sure, but they're very different. Very different kinds of number ones. Even though they're all using that same mating strategy, they're very different. So thinking about this, I was like, well, do I know any number 3s? And I think one of my former close friends, thinking back on it, I think he was a number 3. We were very similar, very close, bonded over our love of comic books. Both wanted to be comic book artists. Both invested very much in the materials of our craft. To everything about it says number 3 to me, right? Specialized guy. Actually, we're no longer friends, and it never quite made sense to me, but looking at it now, I kind of see maybe why. We both wanted to be comic book artists, and I took an interest in painting, right? I had always stayed away from painting because color intimidated me, but I had taken an interest. I had started taking classes as Cleveland Institute of Art, as well as private classes from different artists, going to their studios and stuff. So this was just sort of like stepping out of my comic book box and trying to go more into like fantasy illustration, right? Now, but just before he was very supportive just before this switch. I would say there was a clear hierarchy between the two of us. He was more on top as far as like art skills, and I was at the bottom. And I didn't really have an issue with that. That's just what it was. So as I began to get more serious and whatever, and he would see this and we would discuss it, and I was telling him like, he was like, well, why are you going taking classes at the Cleveland Institute of Art? And I was like, yeah, man, I'm just trying to develop more skills. I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about maybe becoming a full-time student, And he was like, oh, man, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that, man. We study, we learn on our own. You don't need to become a full-time student. I kind of waited back and forth, right? And I agree. I learned better on my own, and I just didn't really have the freedom or the time to really be able to go back to school full time, because you got to go to college. I'm working. I was this was like early in my marriage. It was just a lot, So I ended up just studying everything I can get my hand on, researching, buying all the best books, getting that, instructional DVDs, video downloads, everything I can get my hands on. I began to massively invest in that. Like I'd always had a library. Both of us had a pretty good library in terms of art books, but I began to really invest in that more. And really, anybody was offering different classes, I was doing that. Excuse me. So yeah, I as I look back, I can see I've always been investing in being a number 3, like always trying to refine those skills, get better, devoting myself, right? So it was all good, but when I started kind of drawing differently, and I guess I began to stand out a little more now, because I'm drawing differently. I'm holding my pencils differently. Like you can see, like I'm executing different things that I was learning. We started to have sort of arguments, which seemed really weird at the time, right? Because we've always actually got along most of the part, when we did get along, it had nothing to do with art, right? So for us to kind of fight over art stuff, it made no sense at the time. And he would be like, "Man, well, maybe you should go back to school. Maybe you should enroll in the Cleveland Institute of Art. You should become a full-time college student." And I remember kind of looking at him like you're doing a complete reversal here. Like, it doesn't make sense. And we beefed about this for a little bit. I shouldn't say we beefed. It wasn't that we beefed, but it was always a point that he kept bringing it up. And then one time he told me, like, "Man, I kept waiting for you to sin to get better, and you've never done it." It was like a weird kind of like attack, almost like he was trying to emotionally attack me. Like, it was very weird. "You've never done it. You've never stepped up or whatever." And I remember that shit because it was kind of like, oh, okay, that's an interesting approach, you know. For him to say that, and then at that time when I was elevating, me elevating was causing all these issues. That was shortly after there was when he decided he no longer wanted to be friends, which what are you gonna do? Like, everybody gets to make their own decision. So anyway, I'm pretty sure he also was a number 3. One of my current friends today, I suspect might be a number 3 as well. So I think that's interesting. Like, 2 of my closest friends, or former closest friends, number 3s. And then my other good friend, I'm pretty sure the number 2, the more entrepreneurial type. But oddly, I have not come across many number 3s. Like, I know just going through life, I would always ask and talk to people about, so like, what was your dream? Like, where were you trying to go in life? How did you end up here? And repeatedly, people would give me answers like, "What are you talking about? Like, there was no dream. I'm just living life. I wasn't trying to go anywhere in particular, you know." So yeah, that always baffled me. That's why I'm pretty sure I haven't met too many 3s. Right? The 2 that I'm friends with, I think they might be the only 2. Yeah. 4s, I've known some 4s. 4s are those good people, those liable people, always hang out, always down to have a good time. They're there when you need them. They're supportive. I've known a few 4s. One thing I would say about 3s is I also think that it's a really big part. It's a really big sub program running below the surface, right? And I say that because thinking back, I think I've always been attracted to number 3 characters. Right? There was a movie called Assassins. Great movie if you've never seen it. It stars Sylvester Stallone, Antonio Banderas. I think that might have actually been the first time I've seen Antonio Banderas too. And basically, Stallone's like this assassin. He had this laptop. He would get a mission. Here's the client. Here's how much we'll pay you to take care of it. Have it done by this date, right? basically he would research the person, track him down, and then kill him. Right? I remember seeing this when I mean I had to be like 11 or 12. I remember seeing this. Good movie, but the lifestyle of Stallone, like the way that job just really stood out to me, right? I remember that at the time. It's always stood out to me. It was like, okay, I get the task, I get the time frame, I get how much money I will be paid to do it, and I work solo and execute it, and I'm done. And I remember thinking like that's the way to live. Like that's a perfect job. And I mean, fuck, I was 11. I really had no concept of how jobs worked. Like what you can and can't do. But I remember thinking that like that's what I want to do. Like I didn't want to be an assassin, but I wanted to live like that kind of freedom. And I think that's just the number 3 thing. Like I just want to do the tasks. This is my specialty. This is what I do. Sylvester Stallone, he's an assassin. He kills people. That's what he does. I want to do it in a time frame. You give me a time frame, I'll get it done. You know, I remember thinking that, just like, yes, yes, that's the way to go. That's the way to do it. Also, even in terms of like novels, fantasy novels, in terms of movies, I've always been attracted to the person with a specialized skill. Here's this swordsman. He's dedicated his life to becoming a master swordsman. Here's this artist. He's dedicated. I mean, not artist. Here's this wizard. He's dedicated to become a master wizard. Like, looking back, I can see that archetype. Excuse me. That archetype in and out all things that I consume. Books, movies, comic books. Like, I'm just attracted to that archetype. I can see that below the surface. That's why I say, like, it seems like your social type uses whatever other type you are to execute it, but it's there. So I find that so interesting. Let me see. Is there anything else? Anything I'm missing? I know once I stop this, I'm like, I should have talked about this, talked about that. No, I can't think of anything. But I will say, like, I have dedicated so much time, so much money to specializing. I have all the art instructional DVDs. I have 5 bookshelves full of books. Right, this bookshelf is like old comic book stuff or whatever, but those 2 over there, all art. I got 2 upstairs. Most of those are art. There's some with just other interests, but mostly art. Like, that's one thing I see too. I'm not sure if this is a number 3 thing. It kind of makes sense that it is, but it's something I just realized I'm a little hesitant to say. But what I suspect is, when you're number 3, they're the primary focus, right? Like, for me, my primary focus is art. That's the number 1 thing. That's the thing I decided to specialize in. But I also think that's just sort of that's just sort of the way you do things. So even though art is like my primary focus, all the other interests, I go very deep into those interests, right? None of them are as deep as art, because art, I've been doing the longest. It's the primary focus. But comic books, novels, I don't know, whatever it is that gets my attention, I always want to go as deep as possible. I noticed that, like, I get into this character or this series, I consume it all. You know, I read it all. Not only that, like, oh, okay, I've read all the books. Let me go online. Let me look up individual things. You know, what kind of sword was this? What kind of magical power was that? Like, I'm always trying to discover more about whatever that area of interest is. I think that's the number 3 thing. I can't be certain though. It could be just the savior consume. But yeah. My wife calls me obsessive. Subjectively, it doesn't feel like it. I don't feel obsessive, right? I like whatever I take interest in. I like, and if you like something, you want to learn more about it. But looking at it objectively, she might be right. I'm not certain, because it's like, I can't think of any examples of people being obsessive. So I can't really say what it looks like. But from her point of view, that's what it looks like. And I even asked her, because I was like, all right, help me understand, because I don't understand. Why do you think I'm obsessive? And she's like, well, whatever you get into, you gotta have everything, right? Whatever it is, you want everything connected to it. You want to read it, you want to absorb it. But she's like, it's not even just that. After that, you want to talk about it with people. You want to get their thoughts on it. And she's like, you just become really absorbed with whatever that thing is. And that's why you're obsessive. And I thought about it, and I was like, well, I think that's kind of true. Like, it didn't, when she said it, it didn't sound, I couldn't hear anything bad in what she said. I was sitting there thinking, like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Like, why wouldn't you do that? And then I thought about it. I was like, well, of course, if a person was crazy, per se, right, they might not recognize it because they're the crazy one. Everything they're doing makes sense to them. That doesn't make them crazy. I mean, it could make them crazy. They just don't notice it. So I'm like, all right, that could just be my way of thinking and processing things that makes that feel natural to me. But to other people, they don't do that. So maybe it is obsessive. I don't know. I haven't decided how I feel about that. I need to really take time to sit down and think about it. I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't consider myself to be obsessive, but maybe objectively that's true. I don't know yet. But yes. Also, the weaknesses of the number 3, I do identify with. They talk about being, you having responsibility at the bottom, because basically, in order for you to specialize, it means you have to not do all the other things. You have to really focus on the one thing you're doing. So you're basically discarding responsibility in favor of specializing. I agree with that. I can see that for myself. I can see where I have grown. I have become more responsible to certain things. But looking back at my past, definitely. And even now, I can still see it. I'm not as responsible as I should be. But I do feel that impulse to focus in on what I'm doing and not concern myself with the other things. And I think that weakness, though, if you can pull that in, it'll make you better. Like I think I know another number 3. Another number 3. This artist I follow on Instagram. He goes under Atomic Studios on Instagram. But his name is Henry I.M. That's his like pen name or whatever. He's an artist. He sells like his work on the internet, like usually off Instagram at Big Cartel, and he sells his work. He sells prints. He's got quite a nice, as far as being a number 3, man, respect on that end. He's accomplished a nice little operation, right? I need to go in that direction myself, but I'm getting off topic. Yes, pretty sure he's a number 3, and I had to interact with him. Like I got some things from him, and basically I had to I didn't get any notification on stuff, and I had to reach out. I sent an email, nobody responded, so I hit him up at the DMs, and he did not respond well. He didn't respond well. He got very upset. He does not apparently like being DM'd, right? So I explained to him the situation, explained to him how, hey, look, I ordered this thing from you. I did not receive it. Look, I know you're busy. You got packaging and stuff like that you got to deal with. I just wanted to make you aware of the situation, and, you can get back to me at a later date. Yeah, he didn't take it well. He's huffing and puffing, this, that, whatever. Kind of find out, file went to a different place, and in the end we gotta correct it. And after all this huffing and puffing or whatever, and angry texting, he was like, "Oh man, yeah, we be having a problem with them iCloud joints." Like, he tried to kind of roll it on like, "Oh, well, you got iCloud. Well, sometimes that shit don't work out or whatever." Which I was kind of like, all right, whatever, dude. Like, you overreacted, but whatever. Maybe that's his way of saying sorry, right? But I can see, like, him not picking up the ball on the things he is responsible for. He's not replying to emails. He's not making sure on the business end that he's taking care of matters of his customers. He just wants to focus on the art, and I understand that. I 100% understand wanting to only focus on the art. However, if you are offering business services, you either going to have to hire someone to manage that end while you focus on the art, or you're going to have to do that as well. So, looking at that, I can just see a clear-cut example of like how he's not doing that. And I'm just like, okay, all right, I can kind of see what they talk about when they talk about like not taking care of everything in favor of just focusing on the one thing you were trying to do. I see that in my life. I think that is what's causing the incongruency for me, as far as like accomplishing things. Like, I know I was really getting the ball rolling as far as in the way of my art. My painting was developing very nicely. I had bought printers. I wanted to start selling prints. I got all this stuff going on, and then things changed to where I was hit with more responsibilities. I don't really want to go into it, but I was hit with more responsibilities. And I was, oh my God, I feel like I was dying. Like, I'm getting so close, and now I can't. I have other responsibilities that I can't get out of. I have to do this other thing, and it's just like my shit has been out of whack since. And fuck, man, fuck. I have to get back on that. That's the other thing. Like, even though not being able to have the output that I want to put out, being a number 3 has never went away. I've never not wanted to. Like, that's always been my core desire. And it's weird because I feel like so much has changed. Like, I feel like I'm trying to rekindle that flame that I had. It doesn't burn as hot or as strong as it did before because of having to neglect it in favor of responsibility. But I will say that it's never gone away. It's never gone away. It's always been there since I was a kid. It's always been there. And it's interesting. I was talking to my wife, and we were just talking about different stuff. If you die tomorrow type thing. And I was telling her, like, if I die tomorrow, I would be a loser as far as I'm concerned. She didn't understand. But to me, and again, this I think comes back to being a number 3. And it's just in your mindset. If I don't become that artist, if I don't do the thing, my specialization, I'm worthless to me. My life was wasted. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm like a multi-millionaire, multi-billionaire. It doesn't matter if I was able to help people. All those things are great. All those things are great. And I would definitely love all those things. But I would still feel like I was a failure if I didn't accomplish the mission. If I wasn't able to professionally specialize in that matter. She says I'm too hard on myself. Perhaps that could be true. I think about sometimes maybe I am thinking about it wrong. And maybe being a specialist that wanting to do something, maybe it's just that's what you want to do. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you need to do to be a professional. That it doesn't necessarily mean you need to do it professionally. So I think about that sometimes, and maybe there's something to that, but always before I can get so far into entertaining it, my mind's like, well, maybe. Or maybe that's just taking the easy way out. Maybe that's just letting yourself off the hook. Maybe you being a bitch. So, I don't know. I don't know where I'm at with that. I don't know. One thing I do know is either way, my mind will never accept it until I can rationalize it and believe it. If not, it'll never accept that. I don't know. But fuck, man, like what's the fucking point of living? What's the point of living if you can't do, I don't know, maybe I do sound like a child. Like, what's the point of living if you can't do what you want to do? Maybe that's the three of me, but that's how I feel. Like, what's the point? Hey, you want to do this thing? Okay. Well, you can do anything else in the world. Anything. You could be a multi-millionaire. You can have harems of women. You can take care of your family. Everybody will live lavishly. You can have the best of foods. You can have the best of everything you desire. But the one thing you cannot have is that thing that you wanted. What the fuck is the point of life if you can't have that? I don't understand it. I don't know. Anyway. Well, I don't think I have anything else to say on this, so it's me signing off. Take it easy.